Turning to our top story, David Littleproud is expected to survive the Nationals' leadership vote today as the coalition split continues. Joining me live now is Liberal Senator Jane Hume. Jane, good morning to you. So what are the chances David gets rolled?
Holly, I'm not going to comment on what goes on in the National party room, other than to say that what I'm reading in the papers is the same as you. You know, I don't think that David Littleproud is under much threat, but this is the sign of a party that is understandably angry at the fact that the coalition has got to this stage. And you know, David Littleproud's own team aren't the only ones. The Australian public are telling us that they're angry that the coalition, now split, has been letting them down. We haven't been giving them what they want to hear, which is a genuine economic narrative and an alternative to this terrible Labor government that's seen inflation go up, get out of control, that potentially interest rates go up again tomorrow, and that they are feeling left behind. If we're concerned about what we're seeing in polls or what we're hearing on the streets, well, that's because Australians are aggrieved. And when Australians are aggrieved, they turn to a grievance party like One Nation. And that's simply not good enough, and it's certainly not sustainable. Unless the coalition, and it's specifically the Liberal Party, can turn around its message and deliver what Australians are looking for, which is a genuine alternative, well, then we deserve what we get.
So do you think, as it is now, that the Liberals are a credible opposition?
The Liberals, no doubt, have the answers to Australia's problems. We have the answers to their economic woes. They're rightly talking about the cost of living, which continues to go up under Labor. Inflation's now 3.8%. That's the highest inflation in the developed world. And inflation, of course, is eating away at their purchasing power and potentially putting interest rates back up again. That's going to be very bad news for mortgage holders or those that have a loan. So we need to be able to articulate what we're going to do about the cost of living. If housing is the problem, that's what Australians are aggrieved about, and they rightfully should be, because our housing has fallen so far behind our population growth, then the Liberals need to articulate what our housing policy is going to be. If people are concerned about the levels of out-of-control immigration that's happened over the last 4 years under this Labor government, well, we need to articulate what our immigration policy is going to be. Rather than talking about ourselves, we need to make sure that we're talking about what's important to Australians. We've failed to do that, and that's now playing out.
Well, the point is that Australians deserve a credible opposition and a strong opposition and a united opposition, and that, unfortunately, is not the case at the moment. Do you support Sussan Ley at the moment, and would you support Angus Taylor if he challenged her?
Holly, there is no challenge to the leadership. No one has put their hand up and said, I would like to be leader and I'm challenging the current leader. Sussan Ley is our leader, and we need to unite behind her and make sure that she has the support that she needs to present that credible alternative. Those policy differentiations that we've simply failed to deliver, that's what's most important right now. We need to focus on two things. One is making sure that we fight Labor, that we hold them to account, put their feet to the fire. But more importantly, we need to provide that credible alternative. So when we go to the next election, Australians can see that their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations are represented in what it is that the Liberal Party stand for and are saying, articulating clearly. We're not doing that right now because we're too busy focusing on ourselves. And can we be really clear? Anthony Albanese is not just a very bad Prime Minister, but he is leading a terrible government, but he is very cunning. At the last sitting of this Parliament, Anthony Albanese knew that his failures were manifest, that he had not kept Australians safe, that he had ignored the calls from the Jewish community, that his feet were to the fire on delivering a Royal Commission that he did not want to deliver. And instead he turned that last sitting of Parliament into a conversation about the coalition. He spoke about racial vilification and gun laws, not his own failings. And we fell for that hook, line and sinker and started fighting amongst ourselves. We cannot allow that to happen anymore. This week, the conversation is about inflation. Labor have allowed inflation to increase to 3.8%. Jim Chalmers said that inflation was under control. It's not under control, and it's not under control because of decisions that this government is making. Our job this week is to talk about inflation, how that is affecting Australians' purchasing power and making their standard of living go backwards, and asking what is the government going to do to keep inflation under control, because it's out of control spending is putting pressure on inflation and driving interest rates up further.
Jane, you're right. The conversation should be about a likely rate rise tomorrow. It should be about inflation. Unfortunately, it's still about the division within the former coalition. But I want to talk to you. The Liberals have unveiled a plan this morning in the last half an hour or so to get Australia's economy moving again. Has this been through a policy committee, I want to ask you, or is it being rushed through?
Holly, I chair a committee, an economic committee of backbench colleagues and frontbench colleagues that these policies go through. I'm sure it will go through that committee this week, but this is really important. Speaking about deregulation, I know that in the last parliament that was something that I was particularly passionate about. And the Liberals are naturally good at this. How are we going to rip away the red tape to make sure that, whether it be environmental approvals or housing approvals, starting a new business, how are we going to make sure that that the red tape is ripped away to allow that productivity to occur? How are we going to make sure that there's mutual recognition of skills and labour between states? And most importantly, how are we going to tackle the incredible red tape that businesses suffer around industrial relations, which seems to have increasingly, layer upon layer of red tape has accumulated even over the last 4 years. That's a really important thing for us to focus on, because that red tape is simply adding costs to businesses, it's adding costs to consumers, and it's a way to tackle the cost of living at its source.